Hi, it's Rachel with Dex, and today we are going to do an introduction to training and kind of a review of the basics so I can see what Dex knows and what he needs to work on. Okay, so first of all, I see that he came with a choke chain. That's really good. This is my favorite accessory for the dogs for training. It's really effective and it doesn't harm the dog at all when used properly. So, just to remember, in order to use it properly, first of all, I removed his flat collar so he has just the chain on. That's so it doesn't get caught in anything, and it's as effective as it can be because it won't slip over the flat collar to where he won't feel it, and that way you don't have to use it, more than you absolutely have to. And the other thing is, you have to always make sure that the choke chain is put on correctly. A lot of times you might not think of this because it seems pretty straightforward, but it does matter how you put it on him. So if you can see here, it's making a P in my perspective. So, Dex, sit. Sit, good, sit. All right, so when you're putting the chain on him, it should make a P from your perspective as you put it on him when you're facing him. That way, when you have Dex sitting on your left, which is the side that we usually have the dogs on, we usually heel them on. Sit. Dex, sit. No. Sit. Good boy. That way, when he's on the left side like this, the top of the chain that is attached to the leash is coming from the top, and then it's going down. So that is the proper way to have it. If you want the excess part of the chain to be on the top, and if you had him on your right side, the excess part of the chain would be coming from the bottom, and you don't want that. However, if you do choose to work with Dex on the right side, then you would have the collar opposite. So just remember P from your perspective as it's going over his head, and that's the proper way to put on his choke chain. Okay. Second of all, for his training, you should definitely work on, concentrated obedience things for at least 15 to 20 minutes a day. Now, you don't want to do more than 15 to 20 minutes in one sitting because he won't really be able to absorb much more than that, and he could get distracted. But it would be perfectly fine. It would be a good idea to do 10 to 15 minutes of concentrated obedience training morning, afternoon, and evening. So 3 times a day, because repetition is really what helps dogs. Once they get a command and can do it 7 times in a row consistently, that's how long it takes for them to learn a command. So if you can get him to do his down perfectly 7 times, after that he's got it. And so if he's not doing it, it's because he's testing you. So that's kind of a general rule to go by. Also, I'm a big fan of using treats for training. Now I see Dex has some allergies, and in his file I couldn't find what his specific allergies were. So I'm using his hypoallergenic treats that he came with, and I broke them up into as small of chunks as I could get. So I have them about like this. Now, normally I would suggest a soft treat. A small soft treat, maybe about half this size. Now the reason why I suggest that is because something small and soft is super easy for a dog to eat right away and continue on with their training. If I were to give him a regular size cookie, like what's here, this is really big, so if I tell him to sit, he does it. Good, sit, Dex. You can see he's taking quite a while to eat this treat. He's crunching, it's falling out of his mouth, and he's picking up the pieces. That's not what we want for training. We want to give him something small that he can eat right away, doesn't have to chew, that just gives him that little incentive but doesn't distract from the training, so we can just keep going. And so that's kind of the things for treats. Once you narrow down exactly what his allergies are, and you find some soft treats that he can have, I would definitely recommend that. Okay, so one more thing before I start working with him, the proper way to hold the leash. When you're taking him for a walk or when you're heeling him around, you want to put your thumb through the loop of the leash and make a fist. As long as your fist stays closed, there's no way that Dex can pull this leash out of your hands. Also, by tightening your fist, it can kind of help ease up the tension and the pressure on the leash if he is really pulling, and distribute it out throughout your hand so it doesn't hurt. Now, if you're heeling him, you can fold up the leash like this and control the slack with your left hand. But this is basically how you should have the leash when you're walking him. One last thing, remember, training should always be fun. You always want to end with him doing what you ask him to do, but really read his body language, see if he's getting frustrated, and you don't want to push him too hard because you always want it to be fun and positive so that he wants to please you and he enjoys training, and that's the best way to get through to him. So I'm going to start with some of the basic commands and kind of see what he knows. So Dex, come here. Dex. Nope. I know he knows sit. Sometimes he chooses not to do it. Sit. Good, sit. Now you can see I'm using hand signals as well as the word. So I'm hand up like this for sit. Dex down. Down. Okay, I think he knows what I'm asking, but I'm not sure. So I'm going to use a treat to bait him to see if that gets him in the right place. To do that, I'm going to have him sitting. I'm going to use the treat to bait his head down to his chest. And then I'm going to take the treat down and out to bait him into a down. Okay? Down. Okay. Sit. Down. Down. No, down. Down. Good, down. Good boy. Good boy, down. Good boy, down. Okay, that was good. So he is somewhat familiar with down. He doesn't know it too well. As you could see, I was trying to pull the treat away and up from him to see if he would remain in his down, but he wasn't really willing to do that. Let me try that again without treats. Dex, sit. No. Sit. No. Sit. No. Good boy. Good boy. Good sit. Down. Down. Okay. So I'm going to move the collar up right behind his ears. That's where you have the most control of his head and where he's most sensitive. I'm just going to step on the leash. Dex down. Down. Good boy, down. Good boy. Good boy, down, Dex. Good job. Good boy. Good down. Good boy. Okay, that was good. So he did really well with that. He was really responsive to me stepping on the leash to get him down. So that's a really good sign. I'm going to see how he is with the stay. Dex, sit. Sit. Boy, sit. Stay. Sit. No. Sit. No. Sit. No. Sit. Good boy. Good sit, Dex. Good sit. Good boy. Stay. Good stay, Dex. Good boy. Good boy, stay. Good boy. Okay, that was pretty good. So he's a little bit familiar with stay too. Now notice every time I reward him and I use the same word that I use for the command. So if I tell him stay, his reward is good stay. If it's down, reward is good down. That way he hears the command again while he's doing it, and it helps him make the connection between the action and the word a little bit better. All right, now just one last note before I go. Like I told you, a dog has to do something 7 times in a row and consistently before they really get something. And then if they don't do it after that, it's just because they're testing you. I can see that with his sit. He definitely knows how to sit. That's the command that he knows the best. So you can see when I'm asking him to sit and he's not doing it, I say sit. He doesn't do it, I say no, and I give him a pop on the leash. Then I ask him to sit again, and if he doesn't do it, I say no and pop on the leash. Now, come here, Dex. It's okay. Give him a light tug on the leash. So Dex, sit. No. Sit. No. Good boy. Good sit. Good sit, Dex. So right when you ask him to sit for the first time, it's okay to give a small tug on the leash. After that, you don't want to do your hard pops with the command sit, because then he's associating sit with a negative connotation. So he's associating the correction with the word sit. So instead, I ask him to sit, he's choosing not to do it, so I say no, and I give him the hard pop then. Then I ask him to sit with no pop. If he doesn't do it, no, hard pop. So he's only getting the correction on no. He's not getting a physical correction when I ask him to do it the first time. And remember, when you're using the choke chain, you can give him, a light pull to tell him, sit or down, come, things like that. But to really correct him, you want to do a hard, sharp pop. You don't want to, really be yanking on him or anything like that. Sharp pops are more effective, and it's also safer for him, so it doesn't damage his larynx. But you only want to do those pops after you've asked him to do something you know that he knows how to do, and he's choosing not to. Then you give the sharp pop with saying no or something like that, and then ask him to do the command again without the pop. So hopefully this helps, and I look forward to continuing to work with Dex. I'm really happy with what I've seen so far. This was Rachel and Dex, and we were doing an introduction to training and basics.